call. So that will be on, it might be next week. Anyway, watch your emails. You have to do it when it's an easy time depending on the call so that people have a chance to integrate the new dial-in number. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to put on the global mute. So it should get very quiet, which it did.
Sharon, are you ready for me to start broadcast?
Yes, that'd be great.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees can now hear you.
Well, that's a good thing. So ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sharon Whiteman. We're calling in from all over the globe today. I'm calling in from Australia. There's several people from Australia. Probably, I don't know how many. We'll see as we get going. And also we have our Manatech cousins in, well, Manatech and other company cousins in North America and around the world. It's my great pleasure to host this call. Dr. David Ajibade is very generous with his time, and Sherry as well, in supporting us and learning more about the body, learning more about physiology and how we can stay healthy naturally. Just to give you a little bit of a background on Dr. David. Dr. David is an author, a speaker, and educator in the fields of health and human potential. He currently serves as a member of the Healthcare Professional Speakers Bureau of Manatech. He graduated from Nigeria's first medical school, University of Ibadan, practiced general medicine for a few years, and then commenced training in radiation oncology. He treated all forms of cancer using radiotherapy and chemotherapy at that time before leaving for the United States to pursue a master's degree in business management from Oral Roberts University and a Bible school diploma from Victoria Bible Institute. David has spent most of his life searching for the keys to developing and maximizing human potential. His desire to understand physical health eventually led him to study the emotions, spirituality, nutrition, and eventually the field of glycomics, referred to by MIT as one of the top 10 technologies that would change the world. David has recently published a book entitled Powerful People Lead Healthy Lifestyles, the first of its kind that gives a complete overview of all the factors that influence physical health, and I can highly recommend that book. It's available to you on Amazon.com. This morning we're going to be talking about aging gracefully. I know if we could see each other in this conference room, we'd be sitting around in a circle and we'd probably be nodding our heads. Like many of us have accepted aging at a, quite a more rapid rate than what we need to, and there is something you can do about that. So, Dr. David, welcome to our call, and thank you for being here this morning.
Well, thank you very much, Sharon. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. I guess that means, should I go on?
Yeah, well, maybe possibly before we get started into the actual content of this morning, would you be willing just to share a little bit about your background and your passion for doing this kind of work, and why you got started sharing new technology in regards to health and wellness?
Well, sure. Well, as you mentioned, I do have a background in medicine and radiation oncology, and while the years I was dealing with patients, the years I was treating patients, I could tell, I mean, it was clear, and most doctors will tell you the same thing, that one treatment may work for someone, and that same treatment, as good as it may be, may not work for someone else with exactly the same condition. Well, there's no such thing as an exact same disease. But we could see that there were variations, and fortunately most physicians don't really stop long enough to think about it and dig beneath the surface as to why, to find out why that was so. Well, I guess I was one of the few who really wanted to find out why. I wanted to make a difference. And so that got me to my search, and I began to realize that the way you think, the words you speak, your relationships with others, how you believe, your faith in the doctor, your faith in your God, your faith in nutrition, your faith in other people, all played huge roles in the way, in what determined your health. And so basically, like you mentioned, I left medicine to come to the United States to really get a fuller picture of all these different influences on our lives. Of course, my primary interest was in the spiritual, because we are spirit, soul, and body. There are New Age movements that speak about the mind, the body, and the spirit. And there are different approaches to it. I basically approach it from a more biblical perspective. However, whether biblical or New Age or Chinese or whatever it is, the fact is that we are composed of three main parts, and I wanted to understand how all those three main parts can be strengthened and developed so that even if people do lose their health, they'll be able to bounce back. They will know what to do, and besides that, they'll be successful in making the most of their minds and their bodies in this short time we have on this earth. And so that was my whole perspective, my whole vision coming here. I thought everybody was going to be doing it. To tell you the truth, what we're doing now with our webinars, and our webinars are called Building Strength webinars, we're the only ones that I know of, and I've been searching for 7 years now since I got here to this country. For 7 years to find people who could do what we're doing, and I basically would have gone to learn from them. But I just didn't find it, so I had to take a little here, a little there, and then put the pieces of the puzzle together. And I've been very fortunate to have a friend and a partner called Sherry Plett. Sherry, are you on the call?
I'm here.
Sherry has just been wonderful, and I mean, she's just been tremendous support, and also the technological aspect. If it hadn't been for her, we wouldn't have webinars today. So it was her idea, and she put it all together. So I'm always grateful to her, and for what I always acknowledge that this is more than 50% her doing. So that's kind of the idea. And so for the past, I would say about five months now, we've been doing this every single week and having people call in and listen and get information. We've made handouts available now. We are making DVDs and CDs and MP3s available now. So what we want to be is we want to be your one-stop resource when it comes to health. So you will know what to do. You will have an idea, whatever the condition is, whatever the challenge is, you will be able to get the intelligence necessary to overcome, whether for yourself or your family. And by the way, quick announcement, next Wednesday, we're having a world-renowned toxicologist. He has a master's in health and nutrition, but he's going to talk about a technology that enables the body to deal with these superbugs. Many of you have heard about MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staph aureus. In this country, it kills anywhere from 30,000 to 100,000 people a year, of people who go to the hospital for a different condition, and they leave with that infection, which is deadly. It causes cellulitis. It causes all kinds of trouble in your body. And his company have found a way to help deal with that bug. Now, some people may say, well, that doesn't have anything to do with our specific nutritional company. I say no one nutritional company has all the answers. And so it behooves us to be able to find out who is doing what and how much science they have, so that if and when we do need something extra, we will know where to get it. So in a nutshell, that's what we're doing, and we encourage you to visit our website. It has been updated practically every day because I'm always on Sherry. Sherry's always come up with new ideas. I'm coming up with new ideas just for the purpose of serving you guys. So
that's excellent. You know, I think it's such a good mission. For those of us in the Mantech community listening this morning, you know, we have a mission in providing, you know, new technology and nutrition that is a foundation. Like without that, nothing else can work as good. Having said that, you know, like you said, there sometimes is urgent or runaway situations where we need to add complementary, probably therapeutic modalities to support that nutritional foundation. So, and I'd really like to acknowledge you both because, you know, I think we're all on the same page as far as providing people the education so that they can be self-empowered in making their wellness choices. And really, we need to take our power back and individuate from giving our power away to health professionals and join them in partnership instead. And the best way to do that, or the first step in doing that, I believe, is in increasing our education base. So, you know, what would you like to tell us about aging gracefully, Dr. David?
I can't wait. Let's get into it. Well, on the screen there, so you all can see, these are the three main things that I believe everybody should know. And they include the threats to our health, the capacity of our human body to regenerate itself. We're learning more and more fascinating things about it. And then, of course, the last is how to get what our bodies need to function. All of our webinars, including the people who we invite over, we all make sure that they fulfill one or more of these requirements. Okay? Here we go. The question is, why do we concern? Why is it so important for people to study aging? We always ask questions when we start a conference, webinars, because we want to get people to understand why. So why on earth do we concern ourselves with aging issues? Okay, all together now. 1, 2, 3, go!
Good question.
Well, it's self-evident. That's the thing. It is so self-evident that everybody, like you just mentioned, Sharon, there are people around, we all start together, we'll all be concerned about aging issues. I mean, it doesn't matter how, I mean, once you pass that 30-year mark, you are beginning to fade. It seems like 25 to 30 years of age is when you're at your prime, at your best, muscular development, bone development, mental development. After the age of 30, it just seems like if you don't do something about it, you're going to go downhill. And especially in this country, and the United States, for instance. In the United States, we have a huge amount of what we call baby boomers, those born between the years 1946 and 1960 or 64, who are now a huge amount. I mean, they account for about 30% of the population, but they are great percent of the economics, of the financial strength of this country. I don't know what it is in Australia, but there are lots of people in their 50s who are controlling to a very large extent what's going on. Stay healthy, they want to stay strong, and they're beginning to invest a huge amount of money in nutrition and other modalities to help increase their health. Now, all over the world, they're into the future with dread because people are living longer. Now, they're not necessarily living healthier, they're living longer. And they are going to cause a tremendous strain on the health, on the economy. In this country, for instance, Alzheimer's disease takes a huge toll on the health of every year for people who are struggling with Alzheimer's disease. Now, that doesn't even include the toll on the families, both emotional strain and the financial strain of having to leave work, having to stay with their parents and grandparents, just caring for them. So there's a huge toll. Like I said, worldwide, the key is for us to be able to understand what is important now, what is important to our health. And really, the true test of whether or not you are doing the right things growing up, from your teens to your 20s to your 30s, is how well you age in your 50s and 60s. Now, genes play a part in it. We understand that. But quite frankly, I think genes are highly overrated. A lot has to do with that we're unfortunate and that set them up for really bad events in the future. And we understand that too. But for the most part, a lot of what happens, whether or not we enjoy our latter years, is based on, or is a direct consequence of how we treated our bodies when we're younger. The good news is that our bodies have so much ability to generate, to reverse problems, that even starting today, with the right information, with the right nutritional products, with the right exposure, you will be able to turn things around. That's what we're all about. All right, diseases common to aging. These are what we try to find out were the top 5 or 6 things that people are always worried about. So, of course, we've got cardiovascular disease. I have it on the screen here. Cancer. Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of all people around the world, followed by cancer. Osteoporosis is a major problem, too. It's more among women than among men, and that has to do with hormonal problems. I mentioned Alzheimer's. Number 5 there, arthritis, is the #1 cause of morbidity. That's illness, pain, people having to leave work or not able to function like they should. It's the #1 reason, well, pain in general is the #1 reason why people go to see the doctor. And arthritis, of course, deals with pain. So we are seeing these things begin to reach epidemic proportions. So this picture up here showing the commonest sites for joint pain and arthritis, and of course the elbow, the hip, the knee, and fingers, and of major parts, the wrist and the back, especially more among ladies than among men. And that's as a result of the hormonal influences, like I mentioned. We do have DVDs coming out with regards to the endocrine system and the immune system, some universal science that apply to people when they grow older. know, when you're 50s and 60s, you've been exposed to a lot more disappointments, losses, family losses, good friends from to town. You begin to gain weight. You tend to become cynical. You tend not to learn new things the way you would as a teenager. You're recovering from previous illnesses. So basically, quite a couple of things happen that are common to people who age. But the question is, what is the one universal sign that you're getting older? Things become slower. Your mental processing becomes slower. Your reaction time becomes slower. Your digestive system. Basically, things become slower in greater measures. Now, why does that happen? We're going to get to that in a minute. But this slow. But okay, let's just talk about that right now. Why do things become slower? It all goes down to the cell, the basic unit of the body. We know there are about 60 to 100 trillion cells in the body, and each cell, as they age, the metabolism becomes slower. They're not as effective in using up nutrients. They're not as effective in getting rid of waste products. So the nutrients don't get to where the nutrients are not used up like they should, and the cells begin to decay. They don't function like they should because they're not getting enough nutrients. And also the waste products, because they're not being released, they tend to accumulate in the cells, every cell in your body. And that is what eventually repair mechanisms, and we all have repair mechanisms in the body. Now, when you're younger, you have much more effective repair mechanisms than when you're older, and that is another cause. Let's put it this way: even if you are having all kinds of damage to your body and your repair mechanisms were working like they should, it's unlikely that you would age. Mechanism is another key factor that causes your metabolism that causes you to age. And the next slide, I talk about the 12 systems. There are about 12 or 13 different systems if you include the blood, the hemopoietic system. I go into detail about for each system, the nervous system all the way down to the reproductive system, and explain what the effects of are very different. We can't discuss that here, but I encourage you to look at those to get the notes on the website. Now, the rate at which you age is affected by several things. I have this slide up here, and right there in the center says ROA. That simply means rate of aging. And there are so many factors, like we've mentioned. To the top left, genetic makeup. Obviously, people who have had parents who lived to their 90s, parents and grandparents who lived to their 90s, tend to be able to live a little longer because they've probably got some good genes. But that's not the only reason. Like I said, I think that genetic thing is overrated because there are people whose parents died in their early age who lived to be 90s. Winston Churchill is a perfect example. His parents died when he was in his 20s, and he lived to be 90. And a lot of that had to do with his the purpose he had in life. He was there to save the world from the colonization of Hitler and the other people there. So having a sense of purpose plays a huge role. Your weight and your fat percentage also. We're now finding out that the more fat you have in your body, the more it causes the release of free radicals and causes inflammation, which damage your cells. Diet, exercise levels, huge role. There's research that shows that the more exercise you do, the more protected your brain and the other cells in your body are from rapid aging. And it goes on and on and on. Over here, I say your choice of words, and that is huge. That is huge. The way you speak, what you say, what you say about yourself, what you say about aging. Maybe you're always making crazy jokes about being forgetful and how now that you're getting to be 50, you can't do anything again. You're going to be a couch. You're going to be a couch potato. All of those things, and we're beginning to see scientifically, that your words and how you think can actually accelerate or accelerate the rate of it. Huge, huge, huge. And we can't, again, like we said, there's so much to be said about that. Now, scientifically, we've been able to identify 8 markers called the biomarkers of aging that show scientists how old you are, not chronologically, but actually biologically. By looking at these different biomarkers, and I'm just going to go through them real quick. The slowing based on metabolic rates, diminishing muscle mass and strength, increasing blood pressure, lessening aerobic capacity, means ability of your lungs to take in oxygen, lessening blood sugar tolerance, worsening cholesterol levels, decreasing bone density, and that goes along with diminishing muscle mass. The two really are in tandem. And number 8, the reducing ability of the body to stabilize its own temperature. These are what scientists have been able to look at and see that, okay, these actually tells us how old this person's body really is. If you're in your 70s and you're taking good care of your body, it may be possible that you may have the body of a 40-year-old and vice versa, all depending on what you've done to your body. Is it possible to reverse the biomarkers of aging? Research is beginning to show that, and I have some interesting research results that are in the notes again for you to look at. We have about 21 pages of information in those notes, and so it'd be really good for you to get a piece of those. Now the question is, why do things become slower? Why does your cell become slower when it goes to metabolism? Well, exposure to toxins obviously is a major thing, and we have about 6 different categories of toxins. Well, let's just make it 5 different categories of toxins. Are you seeing that slide right now?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm hoping that it changes at the same time over there, but at least not too much.
Yes.
I'm sorry?
It has been up till now, yes.
Good, so not much of a lag. Good. All right. I mentioned number 1, emotional, because it just keeps on coming up. The terrible 3s are, of course, anger, anxiety, and depression. Anger is the worst that they found out that has a terrible effect on your cells of your body. Now, depression, they are actually beginning to find out that depression really has a much greater influence on your body than we thought of. People who are depressed, who have had a bout of chronic depression, are 3 times more likely to have a heart attack and even to die from a heart attack in the future. In addition, they have also found out that depression actually causes reduction in bone density. It actually decays your bones when you languish in depression for long periods of time. So we're beginning to see those things. All right, we'll just go through the rest. Biological, chemicals, heavy metals, radiation, and of course rogue cells. That is, if the top 5 are not taken care of, then your cells eventually mutate and form cancer cells. Very, very, very important. But of all those 5, 6 that we mentioned, it seems that the one that stands out the most is free radical damage. I remember last, I think, couple of weeks we did a webinar for you guys on inflammation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I just about to say it's depressing me. Oh, dear. Hopefully we're going to get to the good news.
Hopefully we'll get to the good news soon. Well, the night I did a webinar on inflammation, the next day actually I did a webinar on antioxidants and free radical, and free radical damage, because they are so well connected. They're so well connected. Actually, free radical damage is many times is what sets up the inflammation response. So if you can deal with free radical damage, you can, to a very large extent, minimize inflammation. But let's go on to it. I think I mentioned this last time, but let's just look at this real quick. The cell, remember, this is one cell in about 60 trillion cells. Cell is constantly producing waste products. It's also constantly being exposed to chemicals, to radiation, all those things that we mentioned. As long as you live in this atmosphere, you're going to be bombarded by toxins. Now, these free radicals could either damage the inside of the cell, and what we call them intracellular free radicals, or they could damage the exterior part of the cell, especially the cell membrane. The cell membrane is actually the brain of the cell. That is what coordinates all the activities of the cell, except reproduction. All right? And so we have all these terrible-looking objects here, devilish-looking pieces of molecules all attacking the cell. Now, let me see if I got this right. Okay, it's right here. So damage to the interior of the cell and the nucleus is inside the cell, that blue thing there. It can have about 10,000 hits of free radicals a day, or is it a minute? I don't know, one big number. But about 10,000 hits of them to the nucleus. And if this is not repaired like it should, then it can result in cancer. And that's why cancer is a lot more in the elderly than in the young people, because the repair mechanisms are working better in the younger people. Now, they have found out that the one thing that causes aging, probably more than anything else, is continuous exposure to free radical damage. They found out that if you can increase your protection against free radical damage, you can actually increase the length of your life. And I have this picture up here. Show you why this picture up. Oh no, that's not a picture. It's just this word parrot. Why is it up there?
Oh man, I didn't know there was going to be a quiz.
Come on, you've done this before.
Let's see. They live a long time. They have strong immune systems. Something like that.
Well, yeah, they live a long time, but the reason they live a long time is because they have the very high amounts of phytochemicals which confer an antioxidant effect.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
That's right. I knew you were going to say it. I knew it was there.
It was right on the tip of my tongue.
That's right. All right. They found out that the parrot lives to be, believe it or not, the parrot, some classes, that is, live to be over 100 years, folks. Some parrots live to be over 100 years. And researchers try to find out why. And what they found out is that the feathers, the color of their feathers are produced by chemicals in their bodies, in the parrot's body, that not only produce those brilliant colors, but they also confer protection against free radicals, and they have large amounts of that. And so that again adds to the importance of having antioxidants, ample amounts of antioxidants in the body. And the next slide I want to show you is the book called The Antioxidant Miracle. Dr. Lester Packer, he is one of the leading researchers in antioxidant protection. He spent over 3 decades studying antioxidants, and he's come up with the conclusion that protection against free radicals is your number one defense against premature aging, and also against several diseases too. Okay, and you can get the book from my website too. Again, what the researchers did was not just to say, well, it's just free radical damage. They wanted to know which exact parts of the body which exact parts of the cell were damaged by free radicals, and which ones were the most vulnerable. Here's what they found out. I have another picture of the cell here, but if you can see the green part there, last time it was blue, but now it's green. It's a nucleus. There are some pink strands here and there, objects. They're called, they are organelles, small organs, called mitochondria. Mitochondrium for singular. The mitochondrium is your energy center in the cell. That's what burns up glucose, and that's what produces energy. Now, here's what they're finding out. You see those strands, those blue strands, Sharon?
Yes.
Those blue strands are actually strands of DNA. And like I mentioned, the DNA, if it's damaged enough, it can mutate and cause cancer. But they found out that the mitochondria also have strands of DNA. And they are the only 2 organelles in the cell that have strands of DNA. What they're finding out is that damage to the mitochondria, to the strands of the mitochondria, is less easily repaired than that damage done to the nucleus. Not only that, they have found out that the damage to the mitochondria is the number one reason, over and above that damage to the nucleus. The damage to the mitochondria is the number one reason why cells age and deteriorate. Therefore, if it is possible to get antioxidants that will protect the inside of the cell and protect the mitochondria, then you stand a very good chance of keeping the cell healthy. So the intracellular antioxidants are most important. Like we said, we did a class on antioxidants, but the most important intracellular antioxidant is a molecule called glutathione. Glutathione is the most important intracellular antioxidant, and from what they see, it begins to diminish from the age of about 25, again, or 30 years, begins to diminish time is when free radical damage increases in the body. So it's extremely important. Now, if you could find out a way to naturally increase your body's ability to produce glutathione, then you've had it made. Now, many of these antioxidants also play a huge role in helping the body to produce glutathione, but that's more indirect. Now, in not too long from now, we're going to have another doctor, another researcher actually who has found out a way to increase your body's ability to produce glutathione. So we're going to have him on very soon, and that's going to be very interesting too. All right. Here's another picture. Inflammation. I showed this last time. I'm not going to dwell on it. It all starts with injury, and in this case, free radical injury. If we can minimize free radical injury, then we're going to go on and repair and recovery. The cells will repair and recover themselves. If we cannot, it eventually becomes chronic inflammation, which becomes more and more difficult to take care of. Now, inflammation, like we mentioned before, could be that it's something overt, that the person feels like pain in the knees, the hips, and the elbows, or it could be something even more insidious, more harmful, more more harmful to the body, okay? And the key organs that you want to protect at all costs are your heart and the brain. They unfortunately also happen to be the two main organs that are most vulnerable to free radical damage. So really, there is no question you have to increase your intake of antioxidants to protect yourselves, and that of course comes not just from nutritional supplements, that's key, but also in you need your vegetable intake. You need to take more fruits and vegetables. Meats do not, as a rule, provide antioxidants. Vegetables and fruits do. So what are the effects of free radical damage? And of course, the basic principle is this. If you think about damage happening to every cell in the body, and think about the conduit pipes, the channels through which nutrients, oxygen, waste products pass. And what are we talking about? We're talking about the cardiovascular system, the veins, the arteries, the heart, the lymphatic system, the lymph nodes, lymph glands. Because the channels, and I want you to think about this with me, because the linings of these blood vessels are made up of cells too, they also are damaged by free radicals. When they are damaged by free radicals, they also begin to, really what happens is that inflammation happens when they are damaged by free radicals. And when inflammation happens, the end result is that those blood vessels become narrower and narrower because of the deposition of the results of free radical of inflammation, fat deposition, cholesterol deposition. Therefore, it is very important again to minimize free radical damage, and that would include losing weight, because they found out that the more fat you have in your body, the more free radical damage there is in the body. The more depressed you are, anger, anxiety, all those things, anger, anxiety, the emotional, negative emotions, all cause the narrowing of your blood vessels. And not just your blood vessels. We have to think about the nerves of the body, and the nerves course through the entire body. The nerves are cells too, and they can easily be damaged by free radicals as well. And so, as much as possible, you have to find a way.
Be happy.
Of course, be happy. Be happy, absolutely. So, here's getting to the good part. What can you do? And here's the basic principle that is the reason why we're doing what we're doing. Your body is an intelligent organism. It is a survivor. It wants to be well. It wants to be healed. And it will do everything within its power to attain that end. It will do everything. Think about this. Before you even have the symptom of a heart condition, your vessels, your key heart vessels must be over 70% blocked. before you even have a symptom of a heart disease, because your body is constantly trying to compensate. It's constantly trying to make do with the little that it has. You can take almost your entire liver, for instance, and just leave a little bit back, and the liver is going to grow, and it's going to take over the actions of the rest of the body. You can take 1/3 of your kidneys away, and the rest will still be able to take care of most of your body's needs. We're talking about a body that is designed to work for you, and so therefore, it just behooves us to treat this body with respect. And so the key is to focus on not just on prevention. Really, I don't hate the word, but I dislike it because it puts you in a defensive posture. It makes you feel, well, as long as I have my guards up, I'll be fine. But the thing with just being in a holding pattern or just being in a foxhole, using war terminology now, is that somewhere along the line, your body, the enemy finds a way to breach your defense. And once your defenses are breached, then you're a goner. What we must do, and this is we discussed this with Sherry when we talked about aging gracefully in the last call, was that I was thinking about the Olympics, for instance. Now in the hockey, this was water polo, I think, water polo, the finals. The American water polo team was the best defensive team in the tournament. They were up against the Hungarian water polo team, which is the best attacking team in this tournament. Sharon, who do you think won?
The attacking team?
The attacking team, absolutely. They won by a good margin. One story after this, I'm a sports buff too. I mean, the American female soccer team was the best attacking team. No, it was the best defensive team. They were up against the Germans, who were the best attacking team. The Germans cleaned their clocks by 3-0, not in this Olympics, but in another tournament, over and over and over again. And that's why the key is to focus on survival. Focus on winning. Focus on building strength, not once in a while, not when you feel like it, but making those sacrifices necessary to ensure that your body each and every day gets the nutrients that you are not getting from your diet anymore. Because, I mean, there's this huge delusion out there, the illusion that people think that they're getting the nutrients that they need because they eat a balanced diet. No such thing. In the modern world, no such thing. Now, if you live in the villages and in the mountain regions where your food is all naturally grown, there are no pesticides, no steroids, no fertilizers, maybe. But for the most part, those of us who are listening on this call do not have access to that. Therefore, it must be that you begin to seek out good quality nutritional supplements. And where do you start? Again, it comes back, like Sharon said, to education. It comes back to overcoming ignorance with good knowledge, good, accurate knowledge, and hopefully that knowledge will translate to action. And of course, the general principles. We can't go away from the general principles. I have this picture up here. This is the core of my philosophy, like you know, and I mentioned this earlier on, that the key is to strengthen all three aspects of who we are. And you see that light, that glow in the center there. That is where your spiritual aspect is. I mean, the Chinese and the people in Asia, in the Far East, understand that the chi or the energy or the life force is right there in your belly. I believe that's where it is too. But more also, you need to strengthen your mind, enlighten your mind. And I'm not talking about New Age now. I'm talking about good information. If your thing is New Age, that's your thing. I'm just talking about information in general. I'm not limiting it to anything. And of course, if your mind and your spirit are strong, and you're also giving your body what it needs, you're exercising as well, then your whole being will be like you see here, of light. That's what we're after. But when it comes to the mind and the emotions, we see that the mind and emotions play a huge role They actually influence your nervous system, your endocrine system, and your immune system, and then your body cells. So these, from the top downwards, are the most important things you need to focus on. You need to focus on something that strengthens the nervous system. Fatty acids especially are very, very important because 60% of your brain and nervous system is made up of fat. That's right, fat. Good fat this time, of course. And of course, the endocrine system, the immune system. We can't go through all them one by one, but in previous webinars we do have information on that. These are what I call the 4 fundamentals of healthy living. And we all know this. Be happy, have a good diet. A proactive approach to healthy living obviously includes exercise. And once you are always out there studying and always exposing yourself to good information, you will be able to, if things go wrong or with you or with members of your family or with loved ones, you will be able to understand. You'll be empowered, really, to ask better questions of your doctors so that they, in turn, will be able to better serve you well. The problem is patients go into the hospital room and they are terrified. The clinics, and they probably became intimidated. They forgot what they were going to say, and they leave, and they kick themselves for not saying it. Part of it is because the doctors don't really encourage question asking like they should, and I think it helps. But I think it helps really for you to know beforehand. Either write down your questions, and then insist on being heard, because they are there to serve you. Very interesting quote I have here, and here's what he says. This is Bruce Ames. He's one of the leaders. I'm not sure if he didn't win a Nobel Prize, but he's one of the key researchers when it comes to cellular biology. And he says this: remedying micronutrient deficiencies is likely to lead to a major improvement in health and an increase in longevity at low cost. Focus on micronutrient deficiencies. Now, we're living in a day and age where there are technologies out there and huge strides in plastic surgery where they can do almost anything to you and change your body profile and all that. But what he's saying here is that, well, if you do the right things and you give your body the right nutrients and strengthen your body, you would get even better results than all those extensive surgeries that people pay so much money for. And when it comes to nutrition, remember he said micronutrients. When it comes to nutrition, there are about 7 different nutritional, not supplements, but nutritional categories that your body must have on a daily basis. We talk about water, of course. You need to have plenty of water. The problem with sodas and other drinks like caffeine and coffee is that your body at best absorbs less than 50% of the water from those things, from those drinks. You need to have as much as possible good quality drinking water on a daily basis. The average, they say, is if you take about half your body weight in ounces. So if you're about 120 pounds, take 60 ounces. That seems like a lot, but as much as you possibly can, take as much water as possible. Essential vitamins, I would say vitamin D is the most important vitamin for your immune system. Very, very, very important. Most people are vitamin D deficient. They found out, they searched about 17 different cancers, and what they found out was that in each and every one of them, they all were severely deficient in vitamin D, or a weak immune system. So strengthen your immune system. Of course, the other vitamins are very important. Vitamin B12 is extremely important for brain function. It's extremely important for formation of blood. So very, very important. Vitamin zinc. I'm sorry, I'm in the minerals now. Zinc is very important for the immune system. Magnesium is also acts. Actually, both zinc and magnesium act as antioxidants, and we've been talking about antioxidants a lot. So very important. But you need the entire spectrum. I'm just pinpointing key aspects of them, but you need the entire spectrum. Essential amino acids, very, very important. And there's a key amino acid called arginine. It produces a product called nitric oxide. The people who discovered nitric oxide's role in the body won a Nobel Prize. Nitric oxide, what it mainly does is that it keeps your blood vessels, it heals the damage to your blood vessels, it helps accelerate the regeneration of good blood, of the cells in your blood vessels, so that it makes your cells, or the linings of your blood vessels, smoother and less sticky. Your blood vessels lining is sticky. That causes blockage. It causes accumulation of debris and cholesterol. So arginine actually contains arginine. Like the endocrine support formula has arginine, but not enough, not as much as it should. We mentioned essential fatty acids. We're going to have a chat on omegas very soon. Sugars, glyconutrients, extremely important. Phytochemicals are basically mean they're plant chemicals, and most of them are actually antioxidants or anti-inflammatories or both. They play a huge role. As you go around the world, and I know Australia too has some of their pets. Australia has a product or plant called the Australian bush plum, which has probably been herbs or plants that are like the national healing plant of that country that seem to have confer upon its eaters significant healing powers. And I have here a list of about 10 of them, starting with the acai berry. We just get tons of bulk emails. I get tons of emails since it got onto Oprah. It's found in the Amazon rainforest. They've been able to produce a drink out of it. Amaliki fruit. I just listed them in alphabet there that can help in addition to whatever you're doing. I always emphasize that you use what you're using. As long as you know that it's got good science and it's doing well for you, use what you're doing. Now, if you're in a challenge, find out what else actually targets the issue that you're dealing with, and then use more of that too. Remember, information is what we're trying to provide here. Ginkgo biloba, according to a brain researcher, one of the top brain researchers in the world, he said he's seen or examined more scans of the brain than any other human being alive. And what he said is that the most beautiful brains he has ever seen are those that belong to people who regularly use ginkgo biloba. To increase blood flow to the brain, it's a very potent free radical protectant. It's a very potent antioxidant. It helps in memory. It boosts functioning well. And remember where the position of the brain in that picture that I showed you, it's right there at the top, after the mind and the emotions. If you have a strong, healthy brain, it's going to train the immune system, and eventually it's going to do well, or it's going to bode well for the rest of your 60 trillion cells. Extremely important to have a healthy brain. We're going to do a class tomorrow on the brain and how to keep your brain healthy and strong. I think it's soon going to be available in MP3 format, and the notes will be available starting from tomorrow too. Okay. I did mention blood flow. As long as your brain and your cells are receiving enough blood. And why is that important? Because when you receive enough blood, you're receiving enough oxygen, you're receiving enough nutrients, and your body is being able to get rid of waste products. We know that as you age, the blood flow actually diminishes. Again, that's also due to the free radical damage to the cells in your body. On average, I don't know how true this is, but I found a very credible researcher said this, but he said, for every year that you live, 1%, you are laying down 1% of fat in the lining of your arteries. What does that mean? He said, when you get to be 40 years of age, your arteries are, on average, 40% blocked. 60 years of age, 60% blocked on average. So I need to study that some more, but just understand that as you age, the blockage increases, unless you're doing the right things to ensure that those blood vessels are healthy and smooth. So blood flow is crucial. Another thing we're finding out, and a lot of research is being done on this. I don't know if you've gotten emails in your bulk mail folder, Sharon, but growth hormones. Have you?
Yeah, there's lots, and questions about supplementing with hormones and supplementing with glutathione, those kind of manipulating the hormone system.
Right. Well, a key thing with that they are coming up with, and of course, there are people. Most of this research about growth hormones is obviously being used for economic purposes. Most of what they've been able to develop actually don't work in the long term, because most of these people actually just try and constitute the growth hormone and give it to you directly into your body, and it has a beneficial effect that are temporary, but in the long run could actually cause damage. But if you can if your body can find a way to increase your body's natural ability to produce growth hormone. Now, let me just back up. People say, growth hormone, what do I need growth hormone for? I'm already 30, I'm already 40, I'm not growing any longer. Here's the way you need growth hormone. Growth hormone is essential for repair and regeneration of cells. So it's not just about the height from 5 foot tall to 6 foot tall, but really it's also very important for the repair and the regeneration and really the health of your cells. And as you can see in this graph, the growth hormone levels drop tremendously from the age of, guess what, 30 years again. So that number 30 is like that's the magic age for some reason.
Depressing.
I know it's depressing for all of us too. I'm feeling it too, I tell you. Everything drops. So what you can do, what we're finding out is that given the right circumstances, and again, that's what we're talking about. Given the right circumstances, your body can be stimulated to produce growth hormone. One of those circumstances, and I'm going to mention this later on too, one of those circumstances is that research is showing, and I have that in my notes too, that when they get older people in their 60s, 70s, and yes, 80s, to begin to lift weights, not Mr. Universe kind of weights, but just those small weights that cause them to strain and cause them to exert their muscles over 6 months, doing it 2 to 3 times a week. They have found that the growth hormone levels in those people actually begin to rise, and actually in many cases that they found out that those people in their 70s and 80s actually have growth hormone and health levels like those in their 40s and 50s, or even less.
So people that are wanting to increase their growth hormone got depressed by that graph. They can do some light weight bearing exercise and light weights and make a difference there.
Make a difference, absolutely. And of course, if you have the ability to have a trainer, a health trainer that can actually push you to do these things on a regular basis, I mean, that even works much better because we generally don't tend to push ourselves much unless there's somebody out there who is pushing us. So if you have the resources, I encourage you to get a trainer to help push you. Use the money you have. Use it well. Okay. I have here a slide called The Master Races, and I'm going to show you the book at the end. But the book is called Healthy at 100. I encourage you to get this book. It's a classic. It's a fantastic book. And basically it's about, what the man did was that he began to research the lives of the communities where they had the highest amounts of long-lived, they say actually it's supposed to be long-lived, but that doesn't sound right, so I'm going to stick with long-lived people. They found the highest numbers of people with who lived for long, up to 100 years of age, and I'm talking about people who in their 90s are still running around, playing around, working. Most of these cultures, of course, there's no such thing as retirement. They are working until they die, and they check their blood pressures, they check their brain abilities, they check their hearts, and in most cases, people who are in their 90s and above were much healthier than people in their 60s in the modern world or in the Western world. Here, great amount of research. I encourage you again to get that book. And here's a slide showing pictures around the world where they found these long-lived people. The Hunzas you probably have heard of, and Okinawa too you probably have heard of. The problem with Okinawa is that the Western culture has creeped in. They have lots of American military bases. Of course, when you have American military bases, you have McDonald's. And other fast foods, and the Okinawas are beginning to switch. The younger ones now are beginning to switch from the diets of their ancestors to the fast food diet, and they're becoming very unhealthy. However, the older ones are still doing very well, and it's unfortunate. One of the greatest tragedies that is happening there on a regular basis is that people in their 90s and 100s are now having to bury their children and grandchildren because they outlived them, because the children and grandchildren decided to switch to a less healthy diet. What did they do? 4 main things they found out that were common to all these 4 cultures. They had a very strong support system. They respected each other. They hardly had fights or quarrels. They had communities. They lived in harmony with one another. They had lots of physical exercise. Most of these, the three of those cultures actually lived in mountainous regions where they had to walk around. They had to climb high levels. They had to exercise their hearts. And of course, what you know about in mountainous regions, what happens in mountainous regions is that, they don't have enough oxygen there, and so their hearts have to work a little bit harder. And if their hearts are working a little bit harder, their hearts are getting more exercise. I know that doesn't sound, it sounds funny, but their hearts get more exercise and therefore are healthier than people who don't exercise their heart like they should. And of course, the diets were predominantly plant-based in 3 of the 4. In one of them, the 4th one, are the Okinawans had lots of fish in their diet, in addition to fruits and vegetables, but they had lots of fish. Well, what's the thing in fish? Omega-3s. They took a lot of omega-3s, omega-3 fatty acids, which have conferred very good health benefits. The 4th one, of course, was that they didn't make fun of aged people. In this culture, and I don't know about what it is in Australian culture, but in this culture, from the TV to kids that play, there are jokes about being old, jokes about mental deterioration with the aged. There's discrimination, even though it's outlawed. There's discrimination against your age in the workplace. So this culture is not supportive or respectful of the aged. And therefore, deep within, many older people feel that their lives aren't worth living when they get to be that age, or when they get to be in their 70s, because they're like, the society doesn't like us anymore. We're not a part of society anymore. Our time has passed. But in these cultures, there was a strong support for them. And I think that played a key role. All right, here are my recommendations. Are you ready?
Yes. The good news.
The good news. There you go. Huh? Exactly, and it's good news because there are things that can be followed. They're not that difficult. All you need to do is be aware of them. And I have up there saying, make yourself relevant. There's one thing, and the person who wrote this book called Healthy at 100, most of his life was focused on nutrition. He was just thinking, well, if you eat right, you're going to be fine. It was when he studied these cultures and he saw the other components, like the social component, the relationship component, that he began to realize that those parts play a more important role than anything else, even nutrition. Let me give you an example. Science has found out that loneliness on its own has a greater risk factor for heart disease and heart attacks than smoking and alcoholism. Just being lonely has that effect on people. So, no question. Making yourself relevant, that would include finding your purpose, and I teach about that, helping people find a sense of purpose and sense of direction. Once you're in a purpose or involved in a cause that is beneficial to people, that is serving people, that is making other people's lives better. Volunteering could be a good example. And again, research has been done on volunteers, and they found out that volunteers are healthier than people who do not volunteer. They're finding these things more and more and more. And so making yourself relevant, again, is also, you tend to feel a lot younger when you're relevant, when you're serving people, when you're enjoying life with other people. I think a perfect example is Dr. Goen. Many people might know him on the call, but he just turned 94 last week. He is still, I mean, when I used to be with him a lot, he used to consider, he just had this childlike approach to life. He wasn't childish, but I say childlike approach. And he still exercised, but he looked at everything with awe and wonder. But he was serving people. He was beneficial to people. And that's why I put that up there. Make yourself relevant. And of course, the rest of them you Sharon mentioned my book. This is really the first time I'm actually recommending my book. I usually recommend other people's books, but because the whole idea of aging is applies to so many different disciplines, so many different factors, I just felt it's good for people to see that in one book you can bring together all those far-flung, disparate views and bring them together in a book and help people see in an easily understandable format the things that affect our health. And that's what this book is all about. It's like a day-to-day guidance. You can get it from our website. This is the book I mentioned, Healthy at 100 by John Robbins. If I were a college professor, I would insist on every student. This man speaks about cellular rejuvenation. And in the notes I have, I mentioned that he talks about the research that's been done on the mitochondria and shows that if you can protect your mitochondria, you can actually slow down, really slow down rapid cellular deterioration and degeneration. I actually pinpoint the exact page there and explain how that happens. He also has lots of suggestions on how to improve your cellular function. There's the antioxidant book again, and of course, Healthy Aging for Dummies. It's a good book. Okay, I have some other quotes and some other books here that I really encourage people to get. The Healing Connection, the second from the top there, speaks about the connection between spirituality. Now they're finding out that religion, it doesn't really matter what religion you're involved in. People who have a deep connection with religion or their God or have a good religious connection seem to do better than those who don't. Okay, I think we've really gone past our time here, but if you have any questions, please contact us at info@buildingstrengthwebinars.com. Sharon.
No, that's excellent, and it gives a really good idea of, really the psycho-emotional and spiritual aspects that each of us can take charge of and build, new skills. Listening today, if you got overwhelmed, you could target something where you needed to do some work. It's a journey, and I think, again, I'll quote one of our colleagues from a couple of weeks ago, and she said it very succinctly that, health is a journey and so is sickness. So at every point where you notice something where you can improve or possibly have a family member, the point is to start with education and then make choices every day. And also, I recently did some learning about making lifestyle changes, and one of the research showed that people who have difficulty making lifestyle changes, it's because they take too big of a chunk at a time. So really chunk for success, take baby steps to get started, especially if it's a particularly challenging area for you. But David, it's been very informative of a broad area of, pointers in order for us to impact our living positively.
Right. So,
what would you like to say in completion for the listeners today?
Well, again, I want to thank you for listening, for one. I know I've been a little long-winded, but I encourage you again to keep listening, keep searching, keep growing. We know that, like you mentioned, Sharon, we know that people who are always on the lookout, who've developed this habit of wanting to know more and learn more, they're the ones who are more able to be in control. They're the ones who don't lose hope, even if they are diagnosed with a problem. And God forbid, but stuff happens. So even if you're diagnosed with a problem, the ones who have been on the lookout, who are always searching, they're the ones who will be able to be in more control over circumstances. If you're not in the habit of growing, of learning about health and about your body, you will fold. Most people do. And so I encourage you, again, the information, and there's a lot of free information on the website too, so please avail yourselves and recommend it to other people.
Excellent. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're in the group of people calling in from